Weather Action Day. The state's largest school district is responding by closing some schools or letting some out early today. So we want to get over to Lisa Hidalgo with a first look at how hot it's going to be outside.
Just ask my plants. They were all drooping yesterday. It is going to be just like yesterday, upper 90s for us right now downtown and out at the airport, near 70 degrees already. So things are starting to warm up. And as you look at our out the door forecast, we'll be about 10 degrees above this by 10 o'clock, low 90s by noon. And then we're going to hit highs anywhere from 95 to about 100. That covers all of eastern Colorado. Fort Collins, Greeley, Sterling, all near triple digit heat. 80s for the mountains, 91 in Steamboat, near 90 in Durango, 101 in Grand Junction. So statewide, it's hard to find a cool spot. Even Leadville in the 70s, upper 70s today. So it's hot, it's dry, it's also hazy. We have smoke filtering in from the west and a heat advisory going into effect here in just a couple of hours at 10 o'clock. We'll take a closer look at that advisory in just a few minutes.
And right now we're still dealing with a couple of different traffic jams, one over on the east side of town in Aurora, the other one downtown. You can still see they're cleaning up this one crash northbound 225 at Colfax. We also have one northbound I-25 here after Lincoln Avenue before you get to C-470. So from the drive times on the south side, you're looking at still a half an hour from Castle Rock all the way up to the Denver Tech Center. A lot of stop and go traffic there. If you want to cut through Castle Pines, it'll take you time because of that Castle Pines Parkway project. You see the downtown drive down to the Denver Tech Center. And you can see also northbound 225 to that crash at Colfax. Even the southbound side coming off of I-70 is all messed up in there. So that's going to be extra time, unfortunately. So it's pretty full on the freeways, pretty full on some of the side roads with one of the latest crashes over 20th and Wadsworth on the west side.
Well, we do have some breaking news of a house fire in Westminster. Take a look at your screen here. We've been following this for about a half hour. And the smoke has changed from a thicker black plume of smoke to kind of a lighter white wispy smoke, and that means firefighters' efforts to get water on the fire is working. So some good news there. And just within the last few minutes, officials say there was no one inside the home, but there is heavy damage to the garage and to the first floor of the home, and you can still see firefighters on scene working to fully contain it.
All right. Well, we want to update you on some breaking news we brought you last night. You may notice more police around Regis University this morning after a security scare last night. The campus was put on lockdown after someone saw 3 men walking nearby, and one of them was thought to be carrying a rifle or shotgun. Overnight, officers checked out everything, and they say there was no threat to the campus, so they cleared the scene there. Now back to our Weather Action Day team coverage. Dozens of Denver schools are closing early and some won't open at all today because of the extreme heat.
Denver 7's Veronica Acosta joins us live outside of one of those schools that was supposed to already have air conditioning. Veronica, why does the district say that hasn't happened yet?
Those supply chain issues really messing with installing that air conditioning at Knapp Elementary, which we are right in front of. This is the time of the morning when we should see students trying to rush in to get into class, right? But not today. Knapp is just one of 3 DPS schools that is closed altogether because it's just too hot inside for both classes and for teachers as well. We know that Columbine Elementary and Barrett are also closed today. Yesterday, I was in front of a different DPS school telling you that 4 schools were being let out early because of the high temperatures. Now that list is much longer, too long to name this morning, but we are having all of those schools on our website, thedenverchannel.com, for you. We do know there are some big schools on that list: West High School, Thomas Jefferson High, and Manual. Without AC in these schools, classrooms can get up to 90 degrees. Heat is the ultimate reason DPS starts later than other districts, and they've been working on getting ACs installed in schools that don't already have it. 6 schools were upgraded last year. 9 were supposed to get it over the summer, but they were only partially completed, again, because of those supply chain issues. Some have piping ready to go, but they can't get their hands on chillers. Other cases, microchip shortages are really playing a role. And DPS, not the only district that is letting students out early because of the heat or having some sort of schedule change. We know that the Poudre School District and Thompson School District, they are also letting students out early at least 2 hours today because, again, just too hot for students to be in those classes.
All right.
Live in Denver, I'm Veronica Acosta, Denver 7.
Thank you, Veronica. You know, of course, we know the summers aren't getting any cooler. So what will DPS do when the hot streaks get more severe or possibly last longer? I talked with the DPS Executive Director of Facilities about this.
DPS already starts later than some of the other districts, partly because of these hot classrooms. Has the district talked about what to do going forward in future years?
Definitely. We do realize that with our, I'm going to call it global warming, that our summers are continuing to get hotter. And when we go back in August, temperatures are just higher than they have been historically. We are evaluating the next set of schools. So we'll have 31 schools remaining after the 2020 bond for air conditioning.
And I did ask why students didn't switch to remote learning this week instead of having to close schools. She said those decisions are made by the academic teams. These closures, though, won't necessarily extend the school year because DPS told us they already have a couple of extra days built into the calendar for the possibility of heat or snow days.
The city of Denver is opening its cooling centers both today and tomorrow. As an escape from the heat, the city says rec centers and most libraries will be open during regular business hours if you just need a break from the high temperatures. We want to bring Lisa back in, though, because we do have a heat advisory going into effect today. In fact, the National Weather Service has changed how they issue these because we're not typically included.
Right.
The criteria is different. So keep in mind, a day like today, 98 degrees, but a relative humidity of 15%, it only feels like 94.
Right.
So we were never hitting the criteria of a heat advisory. So they changed it up a bit. Take a look at this map. Here's your heat risk map. So at this point, you can see portions of the Front Range there in red, which is pretty high today. You've got to keep in mind, even if that heat index is, let's say, 94, if you get under some direct sunlight, that can make it feel more like 10 to 15 degrees warmer. So I think they were just looking at all these factors and realizing that things have been heating up over the years here for us, and we needed a better way to talk about it. High risk for most of us here when we see those little red areas. You need effective cooling on days like this, and you need to drink a lot of fluids. Now take a look again at this map. I want to show you portions of Nevada and California here in this purple, this magenta color. That's where it's extremely high. And in those areas, they're not getting the overnight cooling like we get, you guys, here. So at least we get a few hours every day overnight in the early morning where we can get a break from that heat. But it's going to be hot today and tomorrow. We'll take a look at the bigger cool down coming up.
Thank you, Lisa. Well, it was just last week Xcel Energy locked out thousands of customers from their thermostats in Colorado. They called it an energy emergency because of the high demand during the heat. Contact Denver 7 broke the story, and since then we've had thousands of responses. Lisa Bledsoe says when she noticed her house was getting a little too warm last week, she thought her AC was broken. She actually paid a repairman $99 to find out that her AC was actually fine. Xcel had simply shut down her controls that night without notification, and it did that because she signed up for a voluntary energy savings program a decade ago. Our Jacqueline Allen spoke to Xcel about it.
Is Xcel going to be more proactive about notification?
Yeah, I think that's a terrific point. And, anytime we run programs like this, we're looking at opportunities to improve communications because communications is key. We want to make sure people know what's happening, why that's happening, and keep them informed.
Xcel says during a high energy use day, they suspend thermostat controls for the opt-ins for that program to help manage the power grid. So if you did sign up for the program, you can opt out. And you can keep tabs on the weather and the temperatures with our Denver 7 Plus app for your streaming device. It has a 24/7 weather live stream, so you can check conditions anytime.
Well, big changes for the Boy Scouts of America after more than a century of tradition.
Denver 7's Micah Smith explains how the Scouts are being more inclusive in Colorado.
For 110 years, the Boy Scouts of America has taught boys leadership and endurance skills.
I went to a couple of them myself back in the day.
Now, Scout leaders say they're using those exact same skills to help the organization itself survive by embracing change.
The biggest one today is we're rebranding from Denver Area Council to Greater Colorado Council. It just represents kind of who we are inside Colorado. Geography-wise, we're over 60% and 70% of the population, so it better represents the council itself.
Greater Colorado Council President Matt Stava says the rebranding is a part of a larger effort to adapt following pandemic challenges and a national bankruptcy filing in 2020 stemming from thousands of sexual misconduct allegations spanning several decades.
We believe that one victim is too many. The national organization did go through a bankruptcy to kind of clean or to set aside funds to pay the victims of those issues that happened, in many cases decades ago. Denver or Greater Colorado Council is really moving forward now.
And Stava says being inclusive is a priority.
It's now rebranded as Scouts BSA. It's not necessarily called Boy Scouts, and it's inclusive of female scouts as well. So it's really serving what I'll call all families and the entire family.
I actually think it's a pretty great change for scouting. Personally, I know quite a few girls who they just didn't feel like Girl Scouts was quite the right fit for them.
17-year-old Eagle Scout Macklin Gifford joined the Scouts when he was 8 years old.
These are all the merit badges that I had to earn. My favorite one, this one's aviation. That was probably my favorite merit badge. I got to fly a plane a couple times.
As Scouts BSA enters fall recruitment time.
Obviously, I hope the organization keeps growing. It had a huge impact on me, and I would not be anywhere close to where I am right now if I wasn't a Scout.
Gifford and Stava hope to show Colorado youth a new side to the traditional scouting organization. Reporting in Denver, Micah Smith, Denver 7.
Boulder police are looking for a man targeting female students on University Hill. They just released surveillance video. What they say it shows that could help get him into custody.
Plus, what Colorado's Google searches reveal about our interests in TV, romance even, and more.